Hey, what's up everybody? Hope you're doing well. We've got some new features for the website builder when it comes to adding shadows to boxes and sections of text. Let me show you how it works. We're going to hop into a website here. This is again on the website and the funnel side of things. And once our site loads, we can select anything like a section of text, buttons, headers, columns. This will apply to basically anything. We're going to go ahead and select an image right here. And on any of your elements, if you go to the advanced section, you will see the new shadow interface right here, which is really cool. It's going to allow us to create shadows and add shadows to our elements on our websites in a way that's a lot easier than it was before. So as we can see here, for things like images or anything that doesn't contain text, we'll have the ability to add in box shadow, but we have way more control over it now with this new interface. So right here we see shadow, we see box shadow. Right now this has just an outer shadow on it, and we're going to see a plus and minus right here. So if you click the minus on any of these, it's going to remove a shadow from the object that you have selected. If you click plus, then it's going to add a new one. And you can add as many as you'd like. So I'll get a little bit into that a little bit later. It's pretty interesting. But if we go ahead and drop into any of these, we can select the shadow that we have added. And here we can see this functionality where we can change the X, we can change the Y, blur, and spread all by pixels along with these little sliders, which makes it really easy to adjust things on the fly. And you can actually see in real time as these things change on the left-hand side. So just so you can see the shadow on this image a little bit easier, I'm going to change this shadow to a bright red. You can see it pop in right there. And then we're going to increase the blur so you can see it a little bit better. And then as you can see, as you change this, let's say we increase the X a little bit, you'll see it move over to the right. If we decrease the X, we'll see it move over to the left as you would expect. So this gives you a lot of functionality to move things around very quickly, change all the settings until you get to a place that you would like. For this one, we're going to change it back to a gray shadow so it actually looks pretty good. And then once you are happy with how your shadow looks, then you can go ahead and click save and you'll be good to go. Now, what we just did was create an outer shadow. We have abilities to create outer and inner shadows, and I'm going to show you what those look like now. If we go ahead and click a different element, let's say this headline, and we head to the advanced section, we'll see the same option for box shadows and then also text shadow because this element contains text. We'll get to text shadows in a second. If we click plus on the box shadow side of things, you'll see right here at the top, as you saw before, the ability to select an outer shadow or an inner shadow. And you can see what each of those look like on this element. We're going to go ahead and increase the spread and the blur a little bit. So you can see that's what an inner shadow is going to look like on an element. And this is what an outer shadow is going to look like on an element. Now, as we said before, you can also add multiple shadows. And yes, that means you can have outer shadows and inner shadows combined. So if we have an outer shadow like this, we can click plus again. We can click this second object for our box shadows, and we can switch it to an inner shadow. Now we're going to get some interesting effects whenever we start messing with this. So make sure you just mess around and get something that looks right, because obviously that's not going to look great. So for example, maybe on this object, we want to have two different colors on our shadow. Maybe we want to have a red shadow that also fades into maybe a green shadow. So we can create our red shadow right here. And then you can see we can create these really unique effects where it has something like a green shadow on top and a red shadow on bottom. There are some cool use cases for that ability to have multiple shadows. And lastly, we have the ability to create text shadows. So if we click this section of text or any element that contains text, then you will see the functionality under advanced and shadows for text shadows, and they function pretty similarly. You can add as many as you would like. And whenever you add these shadows in, you will see them added to the section of text. You can make the same sort of adjustments. The only thing that you can't change is the spread. So as you can see, we have the same sliders. If we increase the X, then it'll go to the right. If we increase the Y, then it'll go down. And we can change the same settings like blur and color as well, just as the same as we can with box shadows. This is a really cool new user interface for shadows. I'm sure you've messed with it already, but if you haven't, go ahead and head into your websites or funnels, mess around with your shadows. It's super cool. And if you have any questions about it, leave a comment. As always, thank you for watching.